Hello, hello. You're listening to The Long Game, and I'm your host, David Lee Kim, co founder of Omniscient Digital. In this episode, we chat with Kirsty Finlayson. Kirsty is the Director of Product Marketing and Content Marketing at Chameleon, a product adoption platform that gives modern SaaS teams the ability to configure, control, and customize in app experiences to drive product adoption. In this conversation, we talk about how the Chameleon marketing team is structured and what they're currently focused on. Content and SEO played big roles in the growth of Chameleon, and Kirsty gives a behind-the-scenes look at how the team has iterated on their approach to content. Here's my conversation with Kirsty Finlayson. Kirsty, welcome to The Long Game.
Yay, so happy to be here. I'm excited to chat today.
Yeah, thanks for making the time. I'm excited for our conversation today. I did want to ask to start, so you mentioned right before our conversation started here that you're based in Barcelona, record heat waves. My understanding is you're from Scotland. How did you end up in Barcelona?
Such a fun story. Apart from leaving the cold sub-zero temperatures to get some heat, I studied Spanish and English at university. So part of my degree was to take a year out, go live in Spain, and actually I got randomly allocated Barcelona as somewhere to go and teach English. Yeah, I know, out of all the places, I could have been in the middle of the countryside, but yeah, exactly. So I ended up here. I fell in love with the city. I met my partner out here too. So after I went back to Edinburgh, saw how cloudy, grey, dark it was over there, I was like, you know what, I've graduated. I think I'm going to try Barcelona for maybe a year, see how it goes. A year turned into 7, 8, and I don't have any plans of going back quite yet.
Yeah, it reminds me of it. Very different, but I went from Boston to living in Dublin, Ireland for 6 months, and a part of me kind of wanted to stay there for longer, but there are like lots of tax implications and employment paperwork, and I was like, maybe I don't want to go through all that stuff right now, and it's time to go back to the States. But I imagine if I did stay, I'd still be there.
Did you fall in love with Guinness while you're over there?
I still have a Guinness whenever I can here in the States, and it's always disappointing. It's not the same, which
you have to get back over.
So that's so interesting. You studied Spanish, and I saw on your LinkedIn you worked at a company, I think it's pronounced Holded or Holded. Which I learned is a Spanish company, like their product and website are in Spanish. So was your job actually like fully in Spanish? Like you worked in a fully Spanish job where you weren't like doing marketing in English or anything like that?
It was a bit of both. So I was working like the Spanish office, Spanish being the main language. Of course, there were like international people working there too. But what we had was the website in Spanish, and part of the challenge was like translating that into English as well. So learning what had worked well in the Spanish market. And it was quite interesting because a lot of it wouldn't work in the English market too. Like there was tax, compliance, all of this. It was completely different. So there were lots of learnings, and I think localization and translation are two very different things.
Yeah, 100%. And now you're head of marketing at Chameleon. Well, up until recently, I saw that your title changed. So you're director of product and content marketing. Tell us more about your role. Like, what are you focused on now?
Yeah, very excited to move into this next position. So as like head of marketing, as I came into Chameleon, it was very much like team of 7, doing a bit of everything, things that weren't even marketing in the beginning too. But now I'm looking after product marketing and content marketing. It's taking it from, well, not quite a zero. Like we've had content marketing, and as a PLG company, I feel like we're always doing a bit of product marketing in like, everything we do, everything we write about. We're like, here's the feature, here's how you can do that. So now my focus is really just bringing this up to the best product marketing team that we can have. And it's very fun. There's a lot to do. And I think content marketing and product marketing, they actually have a lot in common. I think our content marketers have a very good like product marketing grounding, and their product marketers are also very good at writing, very good at telling stories. So it's a cool little team to have over here.
Yeah. How's the team currently structured?
So in this content product marketing pod, I call it, we have myself, we have 2 content writers, but they're not doing the same thing. They have different focuses. We have one who is working more on the organic growth, the SEO side of things. I can touch upon my views on SEO maybe a little bit later and how that's trending. And then we have another writer, Camilla. She's working on more like the product-led content, I call it. Like how you can take Chameleon to solve your problems. And with Camilla, she's also looking after our socials too. We've been doing a big push from the few hundred followers that we had a year or so ago to where we're at now, which is I think about 3,500. So just doing a good job.
Yeah.
Then on the product marketing side of things, once again, we have 2 product marketers. One is a technical product marketer. So she has previously owned like our help center, our in-app communications, has a really, really great knowledge of the product and like the ins and outs of how it's all working. And then we have one more product marketer who is what I'd say more of like the traditional core product marketer, looking after positioning, messaging, differentiation, and really driving how we talk about Chameleon as we are.
Got it. And then what was that bit you mentioned there around SEO?
Okay, so we've had a fun story with SEO. Can I go tangential on that one?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, so when I joined Chameleon, this is 3 years ago, which is kind of scary how quickly things have gone. We had hardly any traffic at all. I don't think we even had like Google Search Console. It was building it all up from the ground, which was super fun, but also terrifying when you go in and there's like nothing, no traffic. What do I do here? So when I came in there, it was very much like, we have to build this up. Like we have to go for like the core search queries of what we're talking about. Like, what is product marketing? What is product management? How to do X, Y, and Z? And that worked. It really worked well for getting us up to speed with our competitors, I'd say, because they were like strides ahead of us.
Yeah.
I'd say over time, and as you mature as a company too, it becomes very, very hard to have a content strategy, which is only around these SEO queries.
Yeah.
And I think you do reach a bit of like a tipping point where you're like, our audience is more mature than this. Okay, yeah, they're finding us, but are we really solving their problems here? So that's the problem that our SEO writer is now tackling. Like, how do we weave the story of Chameleon into these searches that people are making that they might not have like the sexy 1,000 searches a month behind them, but maybe they just got like 10 or 20, but it's really people who have a problem, they need Chameleon, let's show up where they are. And I think it's getting more fun now because you have to take a bit of a gamble on things. Like, there might be a keyword that you think, or you're being told by Ahrefs, SEMrush, whatever it might be, like, no one's searching for this. Why would you write about this? And time after again, when we do that, we're finding they're our best performing articles. Like when you start to weave in maybe the technical aspects plus your product and you have the fit there. It's just someone looking at that moment for what you do. That's like the tipping point of perfection in SEO for me.
Yeah, it's great to hear that you and your team came to a realization. I mean, we've spoken to many clients where they're like, we have so much traffic, but none of it's converting. And you take a look at their blog and they're writing all like very entry-level 101 content, and it's probably students reading that content, which is all their traffic or something. I'm like, if you're trying to sell to the CFO, don't write what is accounts payable. Like a CFO knows what accounts payable is, right? So we started having to educate our clients a little bit more to do the same thing, where it's so easy to use monthly search volume as the thing to use for prioritization. But like what you just said, you missed the goal of, wait, are these the right people, and what are our target audience actually looking like? What do CFOs, for example, care about? Like, they're not trying to educate themselves on AP, they're trying to learn about what other CFOs are doing, or really nuanced questions that there aren't many people searching for. So it sounds like y'all have kind of gotten to that point with Chameleon. How do you figure out, like, how do you prioritize what content to produce then, if you're de-emphasizing search volume as like what you use to prioritize content?
Yes, you remind me of one of our like operating sessions as a marketing team where we list out like everything we're going to do and everything we're not going to do, and top of the list for the quarter was no more boring content. So that's one thing that you should do. Get everyone on board. There's not going to be any fluff or boredom over here. I think what you can do to find ideas and like start to build out the strategy, I'm going to skip the typical like talk to customers, because we're busy marketers, we'd love to chat to customers all the time, but it's hard. Especially if you've got like conflicting time zones, you're all remote now. But one thing we don't have an excuse for is not listening to calls and like checking.
Like sales calls.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Every morning I start off and just like put on a recording, like pick a random demo or a CS check-in, and just it's like my morning podcast, as well as the long game.
Yeah. What has come up on like from listening to those calls? Because I think talking to your customers is something that's often said, but it's like, great, how do I talk to them? How do I get insights from that? Similarly, when you're listening to these calls, like, what kind of insights have you gotten from them that maybe folks who aren't doing that should be thinking about when they do listen to these calls?
Yeah, I think you'll get a few things very quickly from these calls. If you're listening to sales calls, you're going to hear about your competitors like firsthand. Like, they're going to be bringing it up, like, oh, by the way, I've checked out X, Y, and Z. Do you do this? Or they do that? How do you work there? I think just listening in for these like reaction points is really informative. Like, oh, that's cool, I didn't know you did that. You're like, oh no, how do I not know that we do that? And then you look on your website, you're like, oh, you've got one line there about that. Oh no, of course they didn't know.
Yeah.
So differentiation is one thing that you're going to find. I think you're also going to probably have some surprises along the way at what you think your core features, like your billboard features that you should be talking about are, compared to how people actually react to that too. We see that over and over again. Like, people fall in love with the small things too. Not always just like, oh my god, you do product tours. Like, it'll be like, oh, I can actually like trigger a Figma prototype from that. My designers are going to love that. I'm like, yes, yeah. Okay, that's really cool. We actually use a tool called Fathom for our demos and any call recordings like Chameleon. It has a very cool thing where you can just click like AI summary of the call too, which can help you figure out like what people are talking about. It'll be like, oh, they are surprised about this. And you're like, nice. Yeah. And it can help you pick which ones that you want to tune into more as well.
Yeah, I had a similar experience where at my previous role when I was head of growth at another software company, we were trying to figure out onboarding and like the aha moment that I'm sure you're familiar with. And everyone had this belief that there's this one like huge bulk editing thing that customers really love or users would love. But users didn't even care about that. They're like, I just want to edit one record, one Salesforce record. I don't need to edit 10. Just let me know how I can do this in like 2 seconds. And so what I started noticing was even when our reps would demo the product and be like, yep, I'm changing this cell in this interface, and here I'm going to open up Salesforce, and in 1 second it updated in Salesforce, so you don't have to be in there. That simple thing was what people got really excited about. I'm like, don't need to get fancy here. Like, let's just focus on how easy it is to update Salesforce, because clearly that's a big pain for people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, most people come with a problem to solve. Like, show them that first, and be like, and look what else we have.
Yeah. And so I guess one of the big things I'm noticing is I think more folks are coming to the same realization you have around how content should work to impact the business. Like traffic isn't what pays the bills. Like you need to generate trials, signups, and revenue, of course. How do you think about the role of content in like a product-led growth model?
Good question. I can chat probably a little bit about like how we view it at the moment.
Yeah.
I think step one before digging into it too is like making sure you have your marketing team around this goal. For us, our content team, they're centered around pipeline. So making sure that people are coming into the product, discovering the value and feeling so much more excited about like that one thing, hopefully more, that they go on to, chat to the sales team. But in this like product-led marketing, product-led growth, whatever way we're looking at it, I think content plays a role that it needs to inspire people more. Going back to that like basic SEO thing, like I don't really care, like what is a product manager? Cool. But if you can come with a solution to like the problems they're having, if you're consuming enough of this content too of them and their lives, I'm sure at your company you probably even have like the role that you're selling to. Like I can chat to our product manager at any point and be like,
yeah,
what's going on?
What do you care about?
Yeah. So they're just like keeping it more real, trying not to be too detached from your buyer too is key. Like with our content at the moment too, we're trying to really focus on, okay, what features do we have coming out in Q3, Q4? Like, I'm not going to get it to the day. It's going to be way too hard at a startup where like things are changing all the time. But I can see, okay, maybe we have this feature coming out in August. It's like, okay, what kind of content can supplement that? That isn't just going to be like, look at us, we've got a new feature, this is so cool. Kind of be like, okay, like, what ways can you use that? Like 5 ways that you can use this new integration to do X, Y, and Z. And then once you've got that content, like it just becomes so much easier to break it down. You've got your emails, you've got your promo copy, you can even go further, like podcasts, webinars, like repurpose the hell out of it and just do more with one launch.
Yeah. You mentioned that like the main goal that like everyone's aligned around is like pipeline. And so when I think about content, in my mind, it's probably not going to immediately, like, no one's going to read an article and then decide to, like, sign up for, like, to talk to sales immediately, right? So it's hard to measure that direct pipe. I wish it worked that way.
I know.
I imagine, like, with the model you have, maybe you're measuring product signups or, like, trial requests from content and things like that. How do you think about measuring the impact of content? Like, I'm sure pipeline's the end goal, but are there leading indicators there that you use, and how do you set that up?
Yeah, definitely. There are 2 different metrics I look at. Like, firstly, I look at engagement overall. Are people consuming your content? Like, if they're coming onto it straight away, then bouncing off of it, I think you've probably done something wrong. Maybe take it back to a drawing board.
What do you look at for engagement? Like, is that time on page or bounce rate?
Yeah, I like to look at time on page, because you can kind of estimate like how long is it really taking them to read an article too. Bounce rate, we try and keep that low. And then finally, session pages per session. Like, has this content then inspired people to go on and read more, watch more, learn about the product? So that's a very like top level, more of a sense check. Like, are we doing it right? Then in terms of, okay, is this actually driving pipeline? Probably like a lot of people had a bit of an attribution problem over time. So it was a headache for a while.
Yeah.
But now we got some attribution software, which really helped. We are using a product called Dream Data that we love. Okay. It has this report, I can't quite remember the name, maybe like content performance, I think. And it can tell you, like, of the people that got to pipeline, how much of a relation did this piece of content have in getting them there? And I think that keeps it pretty real too. Like, as you said, people aren't coming onto a blog. Well, maybe like 1 in 1,000 come onto a blog and they're like, this is amazing. I need your product right now.
Yeah.
But if they're consuming that product on the journey, and you're seeing that over and over in terms of people who are actually getting to pipeline or actually becoming a deal, then you get more of a hint of like, we should be doing more of that content, and we should be bringing that content like back up the top of the funnel to get more and more people in and convince them.
Yeah. What, in your experience, has been the type of content that typically converts more to pipeline?
Tactical.
Yeah. Like
tactical,
how to use product tours, or?
Oh no, go a little bit further down than that. But like, I think how to use product tours to do X. So how to do user onboarding with product tours, that's very, very high level. That was a bad example. To drive feature engagement, that would be a better one, where you can just like connect it so easily. You've probably got a bit of organic value in there too with like the user onboarding. We write a lot about that. And then the feature adoption too helps it gain a little bit more traffic. We find that really works. High intent too. Like, I think you're always going to win with the user onboarding tools. Like, people are searching. We're going to capture that too.
Of course. It
does fall a little bit into my boring category, but we'll skim over it.
I find that the boring stuff is the stuff that tends to work. Something that I've spoken to my partners about is, I think right now there's a lot of noise in the tech marketing industry. There's like all these different campaigns or like different types of initiatives that you see people saying that marketers should be doing, like everyone should do a podcast or everyone should do a media company or whatever, which is all fine. But my first question is always, are the people who go and do those things, have they gotten the foundational, boring, basic things in place? Like, do they have a lot of these boring tactical content that's more likely to convert, like on the blog or on a website already? And so I love the boring stuff. That's the stuff that brings in the dollars.
Could this be like our hot take? Like, you have to do the boring stuff before you get to the fun stuff?
Yeah, I wish it wasn't a hot take, but I feel like it is. I mean, even in my career, I had to do what my job description was like earlier on, right? I had to take care of my core responsibilities before I could pitch new projects to like the VP or something. Otherwise, they're like, no, go do what we hired you to do first before you pitch all these new things that we've never done before.
No, I totally feel that. Like, when we're a smaller, scrappier startup, it was like you just had to do the foundations and like prove that the foundations can work. Then you have the freedom to go, but you can't go in there with like this mega crazy idea because it's going to get shut down super quickly.
Yeah. You mentioned you joined Chameleon when it was like a 7-person company.
Yeah, we're tiny.
Tell us about the journey of building the marketing function from scratch to now having like multiple teams under marketing. Like, what was difficult about it? What you enjoyed maybe?
Good question. Like, I look back on the days of when we were 7, like, very fondly, but also it was wild. It was so busy. It was like wearing many hats, but like for many different hat shops too. Like, there's a lot going on. I loved it though. Like, you could fit on a Zoom screen, like all of you, just like chat about your weekend. What did you get up to? But building, I think it's probably what I've been proudest of my time at Chameleon too, like building up this marketing function to where we are now, like seeing the team grow. I started off with content in the marketing team. Like, I come from an SEO content marketing background, very traditional, but moved into other parts of marketing and learned a lot, like being that marketer of one too. So we really got that core of marketing. And we also had a website developer join the team. So we had the flexibility to be able to keep building, keep making the website bigger, better. Not that that's like just fancy on the top, but like there was a lot of work to do, and a lot of the boring stuff too.
Yeah.
As we grew, we did make use of like agencies along the way too. Like for paid, it wasn't something that we were quite ready to bring in-house. But in-house, we also had like not the most advanced knowledge, but like good knowledge of how to do it. We just needed a bit of extra help to get it done, and it does take quite a lot of time too. And I don't want to say it to anyone, but like paid's maybe not my favourite. I'm still an organic girl through and through, so any help that I can get on that, I'm like, yes please. From there, where did we go after paid? That's when we started to grow a little bit quicker. After we got our Series A, it felt like we went from maybe about 20, 25 people to I think now we're at nearly 50. So we brought on product marketing, we just brought on demand gen. So we're actually bringing paid back into house. Now we're growing. However, like our revenue marketer should be looking after paid a bit, but also looking after like, do we want to scale up the ABM motion that we're starting off at Chameleon? How can we do like more personalized outreach, knowing that people have been onto our website already? And in terms of the team, I think I've captured all the functions. Start to lose track a little bit. But that's where we ended up. We're about 8 in marketing at the moment. We are like a larger marketing team, but I think a lot of the growth has been driven by the marketing work that we're doing. And we're in a place now that we're like, cool, we've got the gang that we need. Vendors assemble. We're ready to go.
And is this your first time leading a team, or did you also do that in a previous role?
I had led like freelancers or maybe like the lead of a content team had been, but it's something that I learned on the job at Chameleon, which of course was a bit of a struggle. I've probably made mistakes along the way, but every day is a new learning, and I found something that I really love doing. Like, I love my team. I love leading up product marketing, content marketing here, and where I've landed.
Yeah. What have been some of your learnings on like, building and managing a team?
I think the biggest learning for me was I had been on like IC for a while, and I'd also been that marketing team of one. It was really hard to let people just like do the work. I felt like I always had
like
to
in everything.
Yes, exactly. I hope not in like an over controlling way, but it was more like I was just keen to like get stuck into work and like help out, and like all the time being like, oh, I can help, I can like pitch in. But you get to a point where you're managing like 4 people. As much as I would love to just be like helping out every day, like I wouldn't have enough hours in the day. So stepping back and like learn to trust your team. They're great. You hire them for those reasons. Yeah. And they're capable of doing great things. You just have to be like the coach in the back, like cheering them on and helping them succeed.
You have any I imagine like I feel like once a marketer, always a marketer. I personally want to jump into like, I need my little side projects where I can do the tactical stuff every now and then. What are your outlets now for like getting your hands dirty and doing the actual marketing?
Website still is my favorite to get stuck into. Yeah,
like copy or design or
conversion, like making changes, tweaks, fixes, whatever I get time to get into that. I still have the freedom to do that, which I'm very happy about. We worked with, like I said, that web developer that we brought on in the beginning. He eventually started his own agency, but we work with him on a part-time basis, which is really great. So I enjoy just like figuring out problems with him, working through the backlog, experimenting a lot. Like we're always A/B testing at Chameleon. I think if you look at our website, about 70% of it is going to have some kind of like optimization, personalization going on. Yeah. We're using a tool called Mutiny for that, yeah, which I'm loving. So I'd say there would be where you're going to find me sneaking away on like a Friday afternoon. I'm like, what if we did this? Like, what's going to happen? But I'm sure like over time, as we grow and grow, there might need to be a little bit more approval behind that.
Yeah. What types of changes are you making? Like, are you running A/B tests? I'm not sure if, like, how much traffic you have or if you have enough to like do that to statistical significance, but tell us about those things that you're trying out that's working out for you.
Yeah. Oh, could be another podcast in its own, David. I could talk for a while. So we have a really great, like, what would you call it? Like data, Chameleon, like insights into who's on the website. That's something we invested in pretty early, like making sure we had Clearbit reveal on the web, using this tool called Mutiny, which integrates with Clearbit. So we can do a lot of creepy marketing. So like I could say, okay, I want to make sure that any company between 50 and 500 who's landing on this page is going to see this change that I'm making. Or it could be something like, I know you're using HubSpot. Let's start to personalize the website a little bit for that. And actually tech in itself, like knowing what other people are using, can work really well. Like just show them the integrations that you know they have, or show them a customer story related to the tech they're using. If they have maybe mixed panels or analytics, like we've got a case study with mixed panel, let's show them that.
Oh, okay. So it's not even just like design tweaks, it's actually deciding to surface up what, based on what you know of, surface even different articles or content that you have published.
Yeah. I mean, if you want, like some of our projects that I'm working on is like, okay, if people are returning like maybe on the 5th time, how can we make the website different? Like it should always be fresh. I've tried some things that haven't worked. Like once I changed the website to having blogs above the fold, it didn't work. But we moved on. We learned.
Well, I thought it didn't work. Like, did it decrease conversions, or like how are you tracking it?
It did. Yeah. Okay. Once I started to see that tick down, it was like maybe we should. We tried, and every experiment can't be a winner, but at least you learn along the way, right?
I mean, I feel like in my experience, like 80 to 90% of stuff that I've done hasn't worked. When I was at HubSpot, I was running multiple experiments with my team, like on a sign-up flow, on an onboarding flow, like some stuff related to what the marketing team was doing on the website, and we were like, yeah, most of this stuff is just flat. It's not that it's bad. It's just it's not working either, and that's okay. Now we know, but we just need more at-bats. But the ones that did work out were like insane upside. And so I think, I don't know, we were always looking for that next win, I guess that next dopamine hit.
Oh, but it feels good when you get one though, after you've had like the 80-90% of like, that was all right.
Yeah. Well, after having so many that didn't work, when we had one that worked, I remember the feeling was like, right, numbers look good, but I'm not going to get excited. Let's triple check the math. Let's make sure there's no bugs, like everything's implemented correctly. And then like a week later, we'd be like, oh yeah, it was a success. Like, yep, let's roll it out.
Sometimes you're like, I don't feel like I should share this with people yet. Like, obviously something's gone wrong for it to be this good.
And who knows where that comes from, but yeah, I wanted to be 100% sure before getting everyone excited, right?
Yeah, for sure. Don't want to go back on it like, oh, that thing? No.
I saw that you published this, I think it's annual benchmark report that you published just based on, hey, what are the most common types of maybe user engagement tools that people are using? Tell us more about that report. Like what has come out of producing a report? Yeah,
the benchmark report, we've done that 3 or 4 years in a row now. 4 years in a row. I think it might actually be the 5th edition that will be leading up to this year. So the cool thing for content about the Chameleon product itself is that a lot of people are seeing Chameleon experiences in the wild, like our product tours, tooltips, because our customers are then showing them to their customers. So we get like all these insights, like what's the average product tour completion rate? How long will people spend on a product tour?
What is the average completion rate? I don't memorize that from the report. Because I asked because I don't think I've ever completed one.
60%, but
that's hard. That's higher than I expected.
I think it's about 65%. Only if you're doing short and sweet, though.
Yeah.
We do see every year when I go into the data, like zooming out on it, like who launched a tour of 40 steps? I'm like, okay, maybe we should get some more like educational content, like the benchmark report to be like, look, if shorter, sweeter, you're going to get more people like actually engaging with your tour too. So with all this data, we can do this really cool thing where we can see and share best practices. And it can be anything from like the amount of copy that you should have in a product tour. It can be if you put a video within your in-app experiences, do people watch it? And I quite enjoy it. I didn't do it last year, and I don't think I'll be digging so deep into the data again. But you can like ask yourself questions like, do I think if you put a GIF in your product tour, like how's that going to impact it? You're like, let's find out. So like go into Mixpanel, put in the conditions, and you're like, ooh, I think we've got something here. So a lot of trialing, asking questions to yourself to make that report what it is.
Yeah, it's interesting because at least when I've worked with like the onboarding teams or when I was at a smaller company actually building out the onboarding, I'd always want to go check out other products' onboarding flows and like what they were doing, which meant signing up for many products and then getting put into their nurture flows. But when I was reading the report, I was like, oh, wow. So a lot of this stuff would have been helpful to understand. 4 steps max, no more than 4 steps, like not much copy, don't use videos. I think that stuff is really helpful, at least getting a baseline starting point, right? Like so that I'm not that person building my first onboarding flow and it's 40 steps. So it's really cool to see that that's out in the wild and helping folks build better experiences.
Yeah, it's fun to do, and I think each year we do it, we're just getting like a little bit better. Like we've gone from an ebook on Canva that we put together to like actually having it like out in the wild, like this kind of like mini part of our own website that you can explore. Like our view on gated content is very much now like if people want to read it, let them read it. Like we're putting out great content which should promote Chameleon as a brand and as a tool that you'd want to use. Like we're not going to make you put your email up. If you want to put your email in, you can subscribe to our newsletter.
Yeah. Is there a case where you would? Is there a case where you would get content at all?
I really don't think so anymore. Like I said, when I was talking about the experimentation and we have all this data about who's on the website, like what kind of intent levels we think are going on there, like I don't feel the need.
Yeah, that's something that we've gone back and forth on, at least for our own website, and even when we speak to clients. And where we landed was more around if the content is like, if for instance your benchmarks report, we probably would have recommended that you gate that because it's like a unique piece of content that they wouldn't be able to get something like that anywhere else. So it's not like commoditized really. And so it's something where if someone's reading that, they might be a ICP fit for your product. But you also mentioned you have all this technology on your website, so maybe you don't really need all that information. Our recommendation is kind of landed there of like, all right, here's our stake in the ground. And until a client, for instance, demonstrates that they have all that tech on their website where they can identify visitors, then probably just ask for an email so that they can identify who wants to read their stuff.
Oh yeah, 100%. We did that before. We didn't have it. We're like, we don't know these on the web. Like, this is great content. You're going to need your email. Yeah. I think you probably still would need your email if you wanted like the 2016 edition of it. Oh, not that far back. 2020, let's say.
So what are some projects or product features coming up that maybe you're pretty excited about that you'd like to share?
Good question. Too many to count. It feels like we're shipping super fast at the moment, but one thing I'm super excited about is we have a product coming out of beta, and that is Help Bar. So this is an in-app like spotlight search feature that you can use, and it's going to come up when you hit Command K. This search bar is going to come out, but it's going to have all of your help documentation behind it. So you can even type in like, how do I XYZ, and it's going to generate the answer based on all the content that you fed it. And you can put that within your product, which means no one leaves your product. They've got everything they need. And I think in this PLG world, where the more time people can spend there, the more chance you have of like winning them over, getting them to those aha moments. This is going to be a game changer. So I'm super excited about it. Like I said, in beta, but hopefully it can give you a little nudge when it's out.
Yeah. So how does that work? Like, let's say I'm a product manager at Riverside FM, because we're using them right now, and I want to implement this Command K search bar. Is it like I need to have a knowledge base set up on, I don't know, Zendesk or something, and then I train Chameleon on that documentation, and then it can then like surface up or summarize whatever answers the questions that a user might have? Or how does that work?
Oh, it's smart. It can train itself. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Zendesk is a great example. Like, we have an integration, might be out, might be coming, where you just put your URL of your help desk and it's going to pull everything. So this help bar is going to be like completely unique for any company that's using it, and you're not going to end up with like Chameleon search results coming into your help bar. On top of that, you can always put your like favorite pinned items, we call them. Like, maybe, you know, people really always come back for how to, I don't know, set up my microphone in Riverside. You put that as like number one. This is what they need to see. And I think it's really cool because you can just set it up yourself. Like, there's no code. You choose your colors, and within like a few minutes, you can have it up and running. So more to come there. And I think a few more product releases, which I would get told off for talking about more if I did.
Yeah. No, that's really cool. I love this idea of just these products being built where it abstracts away certain features that people want to use. Like, Command K is a pretty common pattern in different products now, but at least from my understanding, everyone has to build it from scratch on their own. Similar with like Stripe made billing easier. Like, there's another company that abstracts away like the pricing experimentation. And so this Command K feature feels like it could be a product in and of itself. It's like, hey, don't build your own Command K, like, use our feature. But it's cool that it's tied into Chameleon's platform and helping people use the product better.
Yeah, and then it can tie in with like other products we have too. Maybe there's an onboarding tour, and you as a user, you're like, oh, that was really helpful. But at that moment, I was like, had a podcast on, I was really into my coffee, and I just kind of clicked through it. I hope we don't exit the tours, but anyway, you might. You can just search for it again and bring it up in your own time, like trigger that flow.
Oh, or you can trigger the onboarding flow again.
Yeah, exactly. If you pop them into the help bar and you've got Chameleon set up, you could do that. Or if you have those little help widgets that pop out like the bottom right of your app, you could even have search within that. So it's always accessible. Even if people don't know about Command K, they can find it.
That is awesome. What is your like favorite feature of Chameleon? Like, of all the different engagement tools that could be used?
Good question. My favorite feature. I'm going to say our additional actions. So this isn't like a core feature. And this is going back to like what I find like new customers, users enjoy too. It's not the product tour, it's not the tooltip, it's what you can do after that I find really impressive and kind of limitless too. Like, you can go on to maybe trigger a type form if you want more survey results. It's the integrations that we tie in. I think I mentioned that you could open a Figma prototype upon a button click. You can trigger a chili paper like modal to book a call. So all of this becomes part of your product, and once again, like, people are there for longer. Becomes their like go-to app. Like we want our customers' apps to be their customers' favorite.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm looking at the page right now where like you can put a Loom video or something that they see afterward.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't realize that y'all integrated. And I didn't realize that the integrations were used that way. Usually when I think of integrations, it's mostly like passing data between platforms, but this is actually like, hey, no, the interface is actually going to be living in Chameleon.
Yeah. Nice.
Cool.
Well, maybe I need to do a better job of marketing though. If you didn't know they were there.
I love it. Awesome. Well, I know we're coming up on time here. So I did have a question around, I saw on your LinkedIn, I read through like each job description
Okay.
that you previously held. And I saw you kind of had a funny comment where you were working at an art gallery in your former university.
Yeah.
And you're like, really difficult, but I learned how to manage my time. You were working like 30 hours a week, I think, like while going to university, which in my mind, I'm like, how? But why did you decide to do that? Like, you just had to and you made it work, or what?
Yeah, I think just that, like, had to, made it work. Looking back, I had the energy that only a 20-year-old has. Like, I don't know if I could do like 30 hours on my feet again. My back might break. But honestly, like, I think it paid off. It taught me a lot about balancing things too. Like, you're going to have times where they're super busy, but there's always a break, and you gotta hustle.
Yeah, I imagine that time management comes into play now I mean, I feel like at our age, it's like there's work, there's my personal life, there's my partner, there's my dog. Like there's a lot of different things to balance.
Yeah, I think I'm getting there. Maybe a little bit better.
Yeah.
Like, looking back at college, university time, I was up at like 4 a.m. doing thesis or dissertation. Now, no, I had to prioritize my sleep a little bit better. But I think finding balance is super important, especially like when you're in remote work. I work with people in American time zones as well, so taking a longer lunch sometimes is the only time I can get that like break to go to the gym or like sort out my groceries, because if I don't, then I'm going to end up probably having like a Big Mac, and that's not good for life like midweek. Maybe once in a while, but
yeah, maybe once in a while it's good for the soul.
Oh yeah. It's been a while actually.
Are you still making time to go scuba diving? I saw that you were a dive master at some point.
Yes, I'm actually planning to go diving in a few weeks on the Costa
Where?
Brava. The Costa Brava, just north of Barcelona. I think it's about 2 hours on the bus, so we'll pop up there for the day and see what's happening. I've actually not been diving up there in about 7 years.
What's I don't know how often you've gone diving, but let's say top 2 to 3 destinations for diving.
Top 2 to 3. Menorca, where I learned how to be a dive master. Beautiful. A lot of the ocean around it is protected too. So you get a lot of wildlife. There's a couple of shipwrecks too, which is pretty cool. Oh, I'm going to say I did Egypt too. And I'm putting that up there because the water temperature is beautiful. It's like having a bath as you go into the sea. And then maybe I can give you my least favourite dive location, which would be where I did my first dive, which is Scotland.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't think of Scotland as places to go diving.
I think there is some good diving up in the north, but where I learned in the Firth of Forth near Edinburgh, there was nothing but shopping carts and trash. Pretty grim.
Yeah, I've been meaning, so I have gone scuba diving once when I was in Hawaii. Strangely enough, they didn't ask. I didn't need to be certified or anything. They were just like, oh yeah, you're good. You're going to have a dive master with you. I was like, are you sure? They're like, yeah, sure, here's your gear.
Okay.
Yeah, it was surprising. I've never gone. I'm not a strong swimmer either, and there were no checks.
No.
I survived, obviously,
Good.
but it wasn't. I was kind of freaking out for a little bit because I wasn't used to all the weight on my back and like the spins and breathing. I realized I was holding my breath for the first like 10 to 20 seconds, and I realized I could breathe, which I realized you're not supposed to do that. But I'm supposed to get PADI certified in the next year, so I will let you know when I'm certified, and I'll ask for more recommendations for diving.
Yeah, definitely. You should do it. It'll be so much fun.
Yeah. So maybe to wrap up here, we got some closing questions here. Typically, I ask, what's a business, something about business that you believe in or opinion you have that others disagree with? I think we had that. We should start with the basics, so we can skip that one.
Yes.
But what's one impactful piece of advice you've been given?
A good piece of advice. I had a manager once who gave me quite a good piece of advice, which was like, what's going to be your legacy at work? I know that sounds like pretty dramatic, but I think it can help you where you're like feeling like you're in a rut. Maybe you're doing the same things over and over again. Like thinking maybe like 5-10 years down the line, like what are you still going to be proud of and probably like still talking about. I think is a good way to frame your day-to-day work.
Yeah, that's great. Is there anything that comes to mind that you're currently working on or have already worked on that you feel falls into that bucket?
Oh, I think a few things I mentioned, like building up the team here, the content program that we built. I think my next, hopefully, legacy will be continuing the work on conversion on the website. We've done a good job, but I think there's still a little bit more until it's legendary.
Yeah, I feel like that effort never stops.
Yeah, right. I think I'll always be chasing it.
Yeah. What's one book you'd recommend more people read?
Oh, that'd be Making of a Manager. It's by Julie Zhu.
Yeah.
Yeah. I read that when I like just started managing, and like back then I think I probably had a bit of like imposter syndrome, like why am I managing people, like what do I do? That helped me a lot, just like figure out like how to be a good manager, like how to do it. I didn't have a clue. So I'd recommend that for anyone.
Was there like a big theme that you took away from that book that really helped unlock that you function as a manager?
I think it was like the trust thing, like being able to trust your team to do things. I think you can call it many different phrases. I've heard of like giving away your Lego too as being a thing that you have to learn how to do. Yeah, that's one thing I took away, just being there for the team. Maybe have another read. I would recommend. There's some nice like fun drawings in it too, which I always like to break up a long read.
Yeah, that's one of the books I've had on my bookshelf for like a year now or two, and I haven't read it yet because I feel like my queue is always getting longer, so I need to make that one jump the queue or something next.
I try and do like serious followed by like a trash novel to serious again.
I do a thing where I have a nonfiction and a fiction book at any given time. And fiction is usually I'm reading right before bed or on the weekends, and nonfiction is like 15 minutes before I start the workday or something. Or if on the weekend I'm like trying to get through this thing that I know I need to get better at. So like being a manager is probably one of those things that I should be prioritizing. All right, so last question. Last question here. Where can people find you on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on the internet for sure. You can find me on LinkedIn. I'm trying to be more active there. I've been recently posting a bit more. It's actually been really fun, like meeting people online, having chats, making new friends. A few who I've met in real life too, which has been really cool. Apart from LinkedIn, I am usually hanging out on Slack, but you can also find me like popping up on the Chameleon website too.
That's awesome. Yeah, I find that maybe before it was during the AOL days talking to random strangers on AIM or AIM, and now it's like connecting with strangers on LinkedIn and being LinkedIn friends, and then sometimes you'll meet them in person. It's like, oh wow, you're as cool in person as you are on LinkedIn.
I know, it's good. It's nice to have friends around the world too. And if people come to Barcelona, you get a little message. I'm like, yes, I'd love to meet you and catch up.
I love it. All right, Kirsty, it was a pleasure to have you on a show. Thank you for making the time.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me. Bye.